Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Card Talk, a podcast where we spend a little bit of time talking about Lord of the Rings, the card game. And I'm your host, Dave Walsh.
And I'm Grant Thompson, just along for the ride. And today we'll be talking about the Galadhrim Minstrel, the law ally from the Trouble in Tharbad pack. It is a 2-cost, 1 willpower, 0 attack, 0 defense, 1 hit point, Sylvan Minstrel with the response: after Galadhrim Minstrel enters play, search the top 5 cards of your deck for an event card, add it to your hand, then shuffle the other cards back into your deck. So, David, what do you think of our lore singer?
Yeah, I think that it's important to tell our audience that we're doing this special series where we're analyzing cards in a deck, and so certain cards really make sense in a deck by deck type, and certain cards don't. And so the Galadhrim Minstrel we're looking at from a general play point of view, but we're also looking at it in terms of like the Slippery Silvan slipping in and out of play and things like that. And so my first initial impressions, and I'll try not to be long-winded about this guy, is that in a general deck, he's pretty good. Anytime you can search your search your deck for cards, it's good. So you can put the minstrel into play, and it doesn't trigger off a Sylvan. It doesn't trigger off of any sort of Sylvan trait. It just, when you put them into play, you can search your deck for an event. And there's lots of events that you may want to have. You may want to have a test of will. You may want to have a sneak attack. You may want to have something. So I think in general, for 2 costs to be able to search your deck, I think that it's good, and it kind of mirrors the ability of Master of the Forge, which is kind of the Noldor equivalent to looking for an attachment. So I think it's really a really neat card, and I think that it fits in a lot of decks if you're looking for events.
I also compared the Galadhrim Minstrel with Flight of the Eagles. Oh, no, not the Flight of the Eagles. The Eagles are coming.
Right, where you're searching your deck for an eagle ally, right? And I mean, and I think that every archetype, search your deck for a mount, search your deck for a Rohan, search your deck. I don't think there's anything that's Gondor, search your deck for a Gondor character, but search your deck for Hobbit characters. There's all sorts of deck searching.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes the Minstrel so reliable, is because it's not search for a specific type, it's just an event.
Right, and it's also not triggered off of, like, when you play a Sylvan, do something. It's, just when he comes into play, you can do this. Now, I think that when you're playing the Sylvan deck, where the cards are coming in and out of play, the thing that I like about it is that you can choose who you want to bring in and out of play. I know that we've talked about other cards like the Nath Guide, where, you want to bring him back into your hand and put him into play so that you can, not ready an enemy. You want to quest a whole bunch, or not ready, or not exhaust a hero so that you can quest a whole bunch and then defend with the hero. Or the Galadhrim Weaver, where you can bring the card into play and then have the top card of your discard pile shuffled back into your deck. So within this deck archetype, what it does is it gives you even more flexibility, because you can take the Galadhrim Weaver, or the Galadhrim Minstrel, put it into play. You can tree people, and then put it back down into play and search for, so you've done 2 searches for things. So that idea of bringing cards back in and out and in and out, you're really maximizing his ability. So he's only made better by using a deck type like this. And so that's actually my total take on this card. I mean, we could talk about some of the mechanics, but I think that it's a pretty obvious thing. You can bring him back into your hand with any of those cards that bring Sylvans back in your hand, and then cast them again or play them again, and it works out really well.
You've taken the words right out of my mouth. There's not much more to be said, because you've covered it all. Other than going through the mechanics of the card, like what you can team it with, there's not much more to be said about the Minstrel. It's an all-round great card.
I will say that with Celeborn, because all Sylvans get +1/+1/+1, he becomes a decent quester
on the first turn.
On the first turn, and then with Galadriel, it doesn't exhaust. Now you can actually chump with him. You can quest with him, chump with him if you need to. Especially late game. You may not need to find an event at that point late game. You may have a handful. It's not uncommon for me to have 20 cards in my hand, and so if I have all the feign voices that I need and, sneak attacks that I need, then why do I need the minstrel? So I can bring him out because he's low cost too. He can quest for 2, he can defend. So it's fine. So yeah, he's made better by this deck type. You're really taking advantage of who he is.
Yeah.
So
I'd agree with that.
So should we ring this guy?
I totally agree.
Okay. So for this kind of series that we're doing, we're not only rating them based on general play, but also within the deck. And so we still keep 1 to 10, where 1 is the one card to rule them all, and 10 is the trash bin or bike spokes, whatever you want to call it. So,
and if we ever get a bike spokes in the deck rating, I'll want to know why it's in the deck in the first place.
Right. Right. Well, that's a good point. Is that if it's made the deck, it's probably going to be at least a 4 or higher or lower, depending on how you look at it. It's going to be between a 1 and a 4. So, Grant, what do you think about the minstrel?
Overall, in the entire card pool, I'll give it a 4 because that effect is very potent, and I've used it in decks that I haven't run Sylvans in, just because of the fact that you get to search your deck for the top 5 cards of your deck for an event, and I enjoy using it. In the just focusing on this deck, I'm giving it a 2 because it works well and then some. It does everything and then a little bit more, because you've always got a way to bring it back to your hand, whether that be through Tree People, Feigned Voices, Elven King, just to pull it back, and then you can drop it out for the cost of 1 with Olorian, or even if you're paying the full price just to get another event in your hand. I can't see you're going wrong with this card. David, what are your thoughts?
I agree with your analysis. I really just have to give it a ring rating. I think it's a little bit better than you said in the general card pool. I think being able to pull out an event, if you're running lore and you have a way to get this guy out, is really good. So I'd probably give him. I'll give him a 4, but it's a better 4 than your 4.
How can that be? Exactly the same rating. Now, if you want to give him a 3.5,
no, I can't do half ratings. So it's a 3.5, but it rounds up to 4, so it makes it a better 4 than your 4.
Why don't you round it down to a 3?
No, because he's not a 3. And then within the deck type, I think it just gives you a ton of options. Quest, defend, attack if you just need 1 extra attack on the round he comes into play. He just is fodder for Tree People or for Island Amid Perils if you want to reduce your threat by 2, or Faint Voices is always a good way to get him. And sometimes he's just good for the Elven King because you don't need. So all that stuff makes him really good in terms of having options. And so maximizing ability, I'd have to give him 2 rings as well for this, which is the same as your 2 rings. Not any better or worse than your 2 rings. So join us again as we talk about more cards from the game. Have a great day. And if you're interested in finding this or any of our back episodes of Card Talk, feel free to search YouTube, where you can find our flagship video episodes with the username Card Talk 2018. Or you can search the RSS feed, cardtalk2018.libsyn.org, for our extended audio versions of our podcast. Or you can find us on Facebook at Card Talk 2018. And if you have any questions for Grant or myself or for both of us, feel free to email us at cardtalk2018@gmail.com.